Hello everybody and welcome back. It is good to talk to all of you again today, and today we are going to be looking at the work in progress tier 10 legendary modules. Now do keep in mind that one, these are work in progress, which means anything I show you can and potentially will change by the time these make it out onto the live servers. And in some cases I hope they kind of have some adjustments done. Now another thing I do have to point out is that a lot of these legendary modules, with exceptions, because there's definitely some of them which I look at and I'm like, wow, that's a pretty strong module. But the majority of the modules, they're almost sort of side grades, and it's almost like there is a change in maybe a playstyle provided by the module. So let's say you have a gearing, right? And the module that it has allows it to do something a little bit different than what a standard gearing can do right now. So I almost feel like these modules are side grade-ish, although some of them are like side upgrade-ish because they do, at least for some of the ships, make them better. So I'll sort of go ship by ship and I'll explain what I mean. Alright, so we are going to start off with destroyers, and then we're going to cover cruisers, and then battleships, and I'll briefly mention carriers. But I'm not really all like super hyped about carriers because supposedly there's a rework coming and we're expecting pretty big changes there, so modules might have to change as well when that time happens. But anyways, okay, DDs first. Shimakaze. Shimakaze gets a torpedo reload upgrade module, which is called Accelerated Torpedo Tubes Reloading, and this legendary upgrade gives you a 25% reduction to your torpedo reload time. Now, traditionally, if you were playing a torpedo boat, you would have gotten Torpedo Tube Mod 3, which was a 15% reduction to your reload time. So this one is a further 10%, which is good. Make no mistake, it does help your torpedoes reload faster. However, the Accelerated Torpedo Tubes Reloading Legendary Upgrade does have an 80% penalty to your torpedo tube traverse speed. This makes your torpedo traverse really, really, really slow. So this particular module, the new legendary one for the Shimakaze, it's not really all that suited for the F3s. F3s typically you're playing sort of more closer quarters, and it just at that kind of range you kind of want your torpedo tubes to traverse faster, so having it really, really slow, not all that great. It does make the F3s reload really quickly, but I think you need a bit more range to play with this legendary module on the Shimakaze. Other than that, Shima's module is really kind of a sort of a side grade. Really just depends on what kind of style you want to play. If you want to play the F3 close-in style, probably don't want it. If you're going to play a little bit further back, you probably want to try it. It's kind of up to you. But Shima, really not too many choices there. Gearing, on the other hand, has this particular module, the modified hull module. This module, for the gearing, is a bit of that side upgrade that I was talking about. This is something that I think that when it comes, a lot of gearing players are probably going to take this. Yes, there is a penalty to your torpedo reload, there is a little bit of a penalty to your main battery reloading, but this drops the gearing's concealment down to Shimakaze levels. That is very significant. With this module, gearing becomes, on par with the Shima, the stealthiest tier 10 destroyer in the game. That is quite significant for DD players. I mean, detectability is life and everything, but having the same detectability as a Shima, that is a really big deal. So I think this for the gearing will become quite an important module. Now, the penalty to the gun reload and everything, it's not that significant because here on the 6th slot, you're going to take the main battery mod 3 or torpedo tubes mod 3, whichever one. But for the main battery mod 3, if you take it, your guns still reload in 2.7 seconds. If I was to run it without this legendary module, the modified hull, then in the current build, I would get the reload time down to 2.4 seconds. So the difference isn't really all that great. I think that the detectability bonus is much more significant to the gearing. So this one, I would say, is more of sort of a upgrade rather than a side grade. Moving on, Khabarovsk is another interesting situation with the weighted artillery. One of the issues with Khab is even when you run things like AFT and everything, the Khab still feels a little bit lacking when it comes to range. Well, problem solved with weighted artillery. This takes the spot of either concealment or steering gears mod 3, And what you give up for either a little bit of agility or concealment is the fact that you have 8% more range. And you also have another 6% buff to your reload time. This makes the Cobb sort of going back a little bit more to the sort of the olden day longer range standoffish HE spammer. You got 14.6 kilometer range. Yeah. And you combine that with the main battery mod 3 and reload time's down to 4.1. So, and that's without running BFT, by the way. So you're down to 4.1, which is nice when you're a Cobb. You have that much range, you can spam that much. I would say for Khabarovs, this weighted artillery legendary module, this one is actually an upgrade. Like I said, some of them are side grades and some of them are going to be like side up, and maybe only a few of them will be like truly upgrades. For gearing Khabarovs, I think these are going to be upgrades. Grozovoy has recoilless main battery guns. So normally you would have, let's say, main battery mod 3, which is a 12% reduction to your main battery loading time, a 13% increase to your turret traverse speed. Kind of have to keep like making these words work in my mind. With the legendary one, you gain faster reload for less loss of your turret traverse, but your torpedoes take longer to reload. Now, with the main battery mod 3, and if you're running BFT, you can get the Grozovoy's reload down to 3 seconds. So I would say if you're playing more sort of a gun-centered build, this recoilless main battery legendary upgrade is probably going to be better than the main battery mod 3. However, if you do want to use your torpedoes more, then maybe that 10% slower torpedo thing is not your thing. But it's a Grozovoy. Personal opinion is this is still a bit of a gunboat, so I would say recoilless main battery is a good thing. So this is also an upgrade. Now, Z52 is where you get sort of a side grade, kind of, because you have to either give up concealment system or steering gears, but I mean, most people run concealment on the Z52, and you get low profile torpedo tubes. So with the low profile torpedo tubes, you give up 5% of your detectability, so you're less stealthy, but you gain 10% to your torpedo reload. Now, this is interesting because with these two torpedo reloading modules, Z52 can actually become a pretty fast, scary torpedo reloading destroyer, because you throw in the low profile torpedo tubes, you throw on the torpedo tubes mod 3, and Z52 reload time drops to 62 seconds. Of course, yes, that includes the torpedo armament expertise skill, although not factoring adrenaline rush. 62 seconds for a salvo of torpedoes. 8 torpedoes, they go 10 kilometers, is pretty scary. But you do have to give up some detectability for it, and for destroyers, detectability is often life. So this could be a bit of a trade-off sort of situation. So I think this one is a bit more of a side grade. Now, finally, we come to the Yueyang, and this Pan-Asian destroyer at tier 10 has enhanced armament. Now, this one, it decreases your reload time of your main guns, decreases your torpedo tube reload, but it takes up your concealment systems mod. So, is that worth it? I don't think so, because again, for me, at tier 10, having concealment on DD is pretty much life, and you know, going up to 6.5 kilometer detect, especially when you consider things like the gearing is now Shimakaze level detection, right? I think this is a bit more of side grade. However, if you have support, the Yueyang can become very, very, very scary right now. Why? Because with this module, main battery mod 3, and if you factor in something like BFT and not adrenaline rush, Yueyang's main battery reload time, 2.1 seconds. That is some legitimate spam that you're going to run into. But she kind of needs to play in concert with like another destroyer, because if she doesn't, then I think she's going to struggle a little bit more. Of course, the torpedo tubes, well, they're still going to take a bit of time to reload. So if you're going to go with guns, Yueyang can become a little bit scary. Now, of course, there's other penalties here as well. You lose this radar's work time, right? So the radar, if you normally only equipped it with the surveillance radar modification, you can get it to be, I think, like 28 seconds. But if you take the surveillance radar mod and then you throw on this thing, which gives you a 30% penalty, you go down to 19.6 seconds. Remember, this is a radar that now you're also less stealthy, less likely to get into that lethal range. Yes, you have that rate of fire, which might help if you're engaging a destroyer here, but the radar lasts a little bit less time. So, yeah, see, there's some definite drawbacks here as well. If you're using like a smoke screen or something like that, there's also a 30% reduction to how long your smoke screens stay around. So there's definitely some costs here. For the Yueyang, I think this is another one of those sort of side-ish grades where you have to really make a decision. Do you want to give up something for something else, right? So for the tier 10 destroyers, I think the ones that are side grades are things like Shima is a side grade. I think Z52 is an interesting bit of a side grade. Yueyang is a side grade as well. In terms of things that I think are actually upgrades, Gearing I think has an upgrade, Cobb is an upgrade, and Grozovoy has a bit of an upgrade here. Next up we have the cruisers, and I think this video actually might just end up being destroyers and cruisers, and I'll do battleships, carriers in another video, just because after finishing the destroyer bit I'm like, oh my gosh, I already did 10 minutes for those few ships. Gotta do all the cruisers, and the battleships might even take longer, who knows. So yeah, I'm just gonna finish this one off at DD and cruisers, but let's quickly cover the cruisers as well. First up, Zal. Now Zal takes up the 6th slot, and it gives you the enhanced main battery and steering gears. So this one, it increases your range, it decreases your dispersion, and it makes your rudder shift faster. And the thing that you're sacrificing is either having more range or you're sacrificing reload of your main guns. This, for me personally, feels side grade-ish, because this is really a choice for you. Do you want more accurate with a bit more range? Do you want faster reload? Or do you want even more range, right? Of course, this one also has like a slightly faster rudder, but this all just feels like it's a side grade because you as a player can choose what fits you better. It's not like a fundamental thing like, okay, it changes your detectability, right? Which can fundamentally change, for example, when we're talking about destroyers, how some destroyers will play. This one definitely feels more like this is a choice. You look at it and you try it and you see how it fits. So for Zal, definitely more of a side grade. Next up we have a Des Moines. Now Des Moines has it also on the 6th slot, and this one has rudder shift time reduced by 20%, time taken to reach full power when accelerating minus 50%, but your radar work time minus 10%. For Des Moines, this particular module feels very much, at least for me, like this is built for Clan Wars. Now, Des Moines in Clan Wars, it has a lot of sort of the island camp, hide behind island kind of thing, you know, pop radar here, pop out, take a shot here, come back into cover. And this literally feels like it's designed for DM in Clan War. Now, yes, there's a slight reduction to radar work time, but if you have the surveillance radar mod 1 here, your radar work time is still 50 seconds. However, if you stack propulsion mod 2 and enhanced propulsion, your ship should be able to get out of cover, get back into cover significantly faster, which should help a Des Moines. So I think these two are meant to be paired together. You give up some of your reload time or range, but see, in randoms, I think most people are going to stick with either reload time or range, but in a competitive setting, I think the ability to pop out of cover, take a couple of shots, and then retreat quickly back into cover is very, very important. So DM side upgrade, I guess, depending on what kind of game mode you're playing. Okay, and to the ship name that I apparently still cannot pronounce correctly, it's either Worcester, whichever one. This one, oof, is interesting. Alright, so the cost is your concealment system mod 1, and what you get in return is your action time increases with your consumables. Now, for those of you who know anything about the ship, she's got a lot of consumables. Oh yeah, of course, keep in mind that the ship is also a work in progress, so maybe things will change. So, personally, I'm not sure about giving up my concealment for increased work time, but again, if you think about it, if you stack something like this, which is the work time thing, and you slap on the surveillance radar mod, well, take a look at your surveillance radar and it works for over a minute. So definitely something for you to consider, but giving up some of that stealth, oof, on a ship like this, I don't know about that. I do feel like she still needs that stealth in order to keep herself around. But hey, I mean, she gets all these bonuses. Oh, I mean, let's not forget, let's take a look at the A work time as well. Yeah, 48 seconds as well. That's quite substantial, right? Her hydroacoustic, 120 seconds. So, you know, the module helps. The module definitely helps. Okay, moving on. Moskva. Moskva, well, you either replace concealment, generally that's what you're replacing, with weighted main guns. And weighted main guns gives you an 11% reduction to your dispersion, so your guns become more accurate. Your range increases by another 8%, but your turret traverse sort of slows down. This one really feels like the purpose of it is to make Moskva a longer range HE spammer. That's it. Because with less concealment, you're not going to come as close, and so you're probably going to stay further away. It just feels like that's what it's designed for. Side grade, because really this is up to you as the player. If you want to be less stealthy but stay further away and just sling shells from longer distances, then that's your thing. But Moskva, really, it just feels like this is going to be a player preference thing. Hindenburg. Now, Hindenburg has a very interesting legendary upgrade. Now, it takes up the slot of either Steering Gears Mod 3 or Concealment Systems Mod 1. But you have Enhanced Repair Party. This one, if you read it carefully, reduces your fire extinguishing time by 50%. Your flooding recovery time is reduced by 70%. Rudder shift time is minus 20%. I think if you're playing sort of like a kiting Hindenburg and you're trying to sort of stay more standoffish range kind of thing, I think Enhanced Repair Party could work. You know, you're a lot more resistant to fire damage because your fires don't last very long. You know, your guns repair faster if they do get knocked out. You still have a 20% reduction to your rudder, so yes, it's not as significant as Steering Gears Mod 3, but 20% is still 20%, right? And if you couple that with Steering Gears Mod 2, at distance, you should still be relatively agile. So, I would say sort of like side-ish upgrade, maybe side up a little bit for the Hindenburg. Her module's interesting. Minotaur. Okay, let's talk about the Minotaur module, because the Minotaur module is interesting. Detectability range is minus 5% only, so you're losing a little bit of stealth, right? So you're going to get detected a little bit sooner. You do have the, if you look at this very carefully, you have 150% work time to your smoke screen. 150%. So if you actually do all the math, that includes the smoke generator modification. If you actually do all the math, it looks like, yes, you're losing some of that smoke dispersion time. Your smoke doesn't stick around as long, only lasting 91.25. But the action time, the amount of time you continuously generate smoke, goes up to 48.75 seconds. I did the math. I think with the legendary smoke module, Minotaur can stay in smoke for... Now, I'm not going to get this math wrong because it's... Yeah, I think it was when I did the math close to 180 seconds. So Minotaur can essentially keep itself in smoke for about 3 minutes. So it gives up a little bit of detectability, and it gives up a little bit of how long the smoke puffs last, but it itself can keep itself in smoke for 3 whole minutes. Yeah, that is interesting. And of course, if you look at the Concealment System Mod 1 and the Enhanced Smoke Generator, the effects of their detectability and dispersion of enemy shells is flipped, right? This one makes the enemy shells less accurate. This one you have a bit more stealth, right? But the smoke generator for the Minotaur, I think this one will be a bit of an upgrade for Minotaur players, just because your smoke is going to last you that much longer, right? And finally, we come to the Henri. Ooh, I almost said Hindenburg. Oh boy. No, Henri the Fourth. So Henri gets this particular legendary upgrade, which is the increased firing elevation of your artillery. This gives you 8% more range. It decreases your reload time by 12%. If you couple that with the main battery mod 3, this makes Henri definitely one of the kiting cruisers, right? This is meant for you to sort of stay further away at range and sling HE, which you're able to do faster now. 9.5 seconds without counting Adrenaline Rush. Henri's one of the sort of problems with it used to be that its guns reloaded a bit slower. Well, this time your guns are going to reload faster. For the Henri to get this, I mean, yes, you do become less stealthy for sure. If you actually factor in all the skills as well. My bad, I forgot to spec the Henri Captain here. But if you get it with the Concealment Expert skill, you are less stealthy for sure. You're looking at 16-kilometer surface attack. But hey, your gun range is now 20.6. You're meant to be more standoffish and just spray a lot of HE at a much faster pace than before. Remember, HE is pretty damn deadly on the Henri. So yeah, I think this one is a side-ish upgrade, because Henri has always been a ship that is reasonably easy to spot, you know, tends to stay further away at range. So this one is almost, I think, yeah, it works. These two combined together works pretty damn well. And 9.5 seconds. Oof, expect to get more HE spam from the Henris. All in all, if you look at the cruisers, you'll see that things are a lot more interesting here. Some of them are definitely sort of more side grade. Just depends on sort of your playstyle. Some of them, like the Des Moines, is almost, I think, dependent on which mode you're playing, because random versus clan war, different expectations of the ship, different requirements, and you see with that particular legendary upgrade that it fits one much better. And in randoms, people are still going to default to things like reload and things like that. So all in all, for the cruisers, I think you have some upgrades, some side upgrades, some just pure side grades. But they all provide something interesting for you to consider as a player when looking at the legendary modules for these cruisers and the destroyers as well. Alright, so I'm going to wrap up this video here, and then I'll release another video a little bit later on covering the battleships and of course the carriers. If you have any questions about these legendary modules or comments, leave those in the comment section below. One final comment, Kat, I picked you as a winner for a May community contributor crate. You haven't really responded to my comments, my messages, or the video where I announced you as the winner, so unfortunately I'm gonna have to re-pick someone for that May crate. So for everybody who watched this, might as well leave your name in the comment section, because I'm gonna draw the May crate with this video from the comments in this video. Alright, folks, take care of yourselves, have yourselves a good weekend, and I'll talk to you really soon in the Battleship Legendary Upgrade and Carriers one video that's coming up really soon. So until then, take care, and I'll see you then.